Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start now because the minister won't get. John, can you move your John? Right, ladies and gents, welcome back to our next session. Now, clearly, we heard this morning that there is a clear demand for digital services from the corporate sector. There is clear capability to deliver that as well. And this is what we're going to hear about now. So we're going to have a very strict time limit on this, 6 minutes each from these innovative platform providers with some questions afterwards. So do please think of questions before we don't want that cheesy silence that comes after the end of some presentations. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Alejandro Pernias from edoxOnline.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for this slot. Let me just double check it is not working this to change the slides. Someone help me out with this. Time is running. All right, thank you so much. Well, as I said, thank you so much for this slot. Our case is about the interoperability of the EBL. And for those who are not familiar with edoxOnline, let me briefly introduce you what it is about.
Every year, 10 billion tons of commodities are traded around the world, depending on complex and sensitive shipping documents. In this context, which rely mostly on emails and paper documents, edoxOnline went live in 2007 as a major technical innovator for international trade. Even today, the information contained in shipping documents is manually typed and retyped thousands of times, exchanged in millions of emails with heavy attachments, printed out in tons of paper to be finally flown across the world in couriers, often delayed and always expensive. Performing error-prone processes without proper technology means an inefficient, repetitive, manual, time-consuming, and consequently a costly activity. All of these have already started to change for the better thanks to edoxOnline. edoxOnline enables different industry participants to interact, collaborate, and seamlessly exchange documented information within a constantly growing ecosystem. Adopted by major trading companies around the world, edoxOnline streamlines and automates post-trade execution processes such as document instructions, vendor appointments, draft generations, original documents issuance, electronic presentations, and more, all in one platform. This automation helps companies to speed up transactions, mitigate errors, and reduce data leaking, gaining consistent and reliable efficiencies. edoxOnline's proprietary technology enables the electronic issuance and secure validation of bills of lading, supervision, origin, fumigation, and many other electronic documents. In compliance with the International Chamber of Commerce's EUCP, edoxOnline e-documents can be presented to banks for negotiation, saving at least 10 days on each shipment and substantially reducing your working capital needs. The largest trading companies and hundreds of SMEs are already using edoxOnline to issue key transactional documentation in a reliable, efficient, interconnected, and secure manner. And now it's your turn. Go digital. Go edoxOnline.
Well, that being said, as you can see, edoxOnline is more than an EBL platform. It is more than a repository of documents. It's more than a transfer of documents between platforms. It's a powerful and comprehensive documents preparation tool. But when it comes to electronic documents, in particular the EBL, being a document of title, we all know that it has the power to unlock huge benefits, to unleash huge efficiency gains. So despite these benefits, we notice a slow adoption of the EBL. Reason for that is the lack of interoperability. Of course, there are some other challenges along the way, as you can see, but most of them were overcome. And the one that requires a lot of effort is the interoperability. So what is it that edoxOnline has been doing in this regard? Well, we joined a very ambitious project. It was launched 3 years ago or so. The DCSA project, aiming at defining the standard and trying to make the interoperability feasible. So we, as you can imagine, we had to discuss a lot of technical aspects. We had to discuss and define the standards for the communication and the automation of information. We had to adapt our platform accordingly. We had to discuss and agree on the legal framework to transmit the EBL from one platform to a different one. So, but the good news here is that we carried out a successful proof of concept. We were also invited to participate in a different project by using the same standard, the CSA standard, but using a different environment. In this case, was the financial network, the SWIFT network. In this case, using their own IDs, the PICs, and they call the SWIFT codes. And together with two major banks, the Bank of New York Mellon and the JP Morgan, we also managed to carry out a successful proof of concept.
That's your 6 minutes. Thanks very much, Andy.
All right.
Great. So, any questions for Alejandro? I've got one. How can you be competitive in a collaborative world?
Competitive?
Yeah.
Well,
How you can be commercial in a collaborative world?
Well, this is one of the aspects that will, let's say, instead of working in the digital islands, by having the interoperability, you have the chance to compete and to receive the same way that you receive an email from different platforms. This will be the best way. So I think the interoperability will unlock this chance of competing and trying not to operate as an isolated solution.
Anyone else with a question? Okay, how many? Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Just a question about interoperability. So given that standards or data formats are machine readable formats, what might be the role for artificial intelligence and semantic techniques in enabling interoperability without the need for kind of one all-encompassing standard?
Well, that's a very smart question, and I don't know if I will be in a position to technically answer that, but I would say that the starting point is defining standards, because without the standards, you won't be able to communicate and to automate data transmission. I think that's the core of that. Then we all know that the artificial intelligence are doing a great job, and we all think that this is going to reach out very soon to all of us by having something to work instead of humans trying to get the artificial intelligence, making use of those standards to communicate. So I think that definitely will be part of the solution, and we will be seeing. In fact, some of the competitors were also addressing this. So we all know that somehow we are working on that, but there is still something. Yeah, you go ahead.
I said it as a slightly leading question because it's something that we at Digital Catapult are building some systems around at the moment. So.
This is not yours presentation. Right. Thank you very much, Alejandro.
No, you're welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sunil.
Thank you, Nick. You got some more slides left?
I'm sorry.
I'm going to cover them. All right, that's us. Okay, before I go to my slides, I mean, we have been listening to some very interesting, illustrious speakers here, policymakers, practitioners, and regulators. And my few key takeaways are we need to collaborate and work together because we are fighting against hundreds of years of working experience with paper. If we have to ditch that, we really need to collaborate and work together and bring our trust into digital solutions, wherein we don't have anything to hold, but the data is all there. So it's a huge change for all of us. And I think we all need to come together and start putting our trust into the system so that we can actually make this move, okay? Now, from XTC Trade Network, we are, of course, joining this mission where we are also here to see how we can work and make sure that we make this journey working with the whole industry together, okay? We realize the benefits, and we are ourselves putting a solution which is going to work in a very collaborative way. So what is XTC Trade Network, okay? So we have put a decentralized application, and it comes with plenty of functionality. But the key one, which I would like to share, is you would be able to create any trade digital document. It could be a verifiable document. It could be a title transfer document. You would be able to create that. How you create, how you pass on, I'll come to that. But that's the key, one of the elements of our solution. The second, when these documents are created, you could just send it across to your other trade participant. Or you could actually use these documents to get trade finance. So you can use this digital document as collateral and then take it to the next level where you get financed. So in a way, we run a marketplace where any shipper who has a digital document would be able to raise trade finance 100% if he has a digital document. That digital document, we should be able to verify online through some source. I'll explain how we are doing that, but this is at the core of our solution, which it is designed to do. Okay, so this might look a bit busy slide, but I will just take you one by one. I know I have maybe 3-4 minutes more. So what we have on the lower part is a documentation layer. This is where all the action is. This is where the documents get created. Our go-to-market for a documentation layer solution is partner approach. We already have 4 partners live today, those who work with the shippers and various other trade participants so that these trade documents can be created. When the trade documents are getting created, of course, we follow the data standards by ICC DSI. We work very closely with Trade Trust. So Trade Trust tool is already integrated on our blockchain platform. And then all the documents get created are actually stored on XTC network using Trade Trust. Now that's our compliance and data verification. I'll come to the other building blocks a little later. Now let's look at the top layer, which is the key. This is the financing layer where when the documents are all created, an exporter would actually present these documents to the liquidity provider and say, look, this is the live documents I have. I own this title, and these are all my supporting documents. And then liquidity provider can actually verify whether these documents are indeed his property. And when they are happy with the verification of the data, this is where the other building blocks comes in. We have already integrated our solution with Cliff, where we can verify the asking party if it is indeed the same party, and so on. We will also have ESG data access. We'll have third-party shipping data. There are plenty of companies out there, those who are providing third-party data, sanction list, and so on. We'll have them as well. Sorry, jumping the slide. All right, so now once these documents are verified, one can actually transfer the title as well. So as a liquidity provider, before you provide liquidity, you actually get hold of the title and other documents into your control, and then you do the liquidity transfer. Now, some data which I have, obviously we all know funding gap is $2.5 trillion. So we are looking at bringing new liquidity using alternate source funding companies. So that's one way of addressing the liquidity. The other data, which I think we all also know, is there's roughly any time $1 to $2 trillion worth of money, which is lying in the bank and which is supposed to go to some other party, which means $1 to $2 trillion is ready to fly to someone else, but it has not gone yet, which means the settlement time is taking much, much longer. So that brings to my use case, which we did a pilot very recently, where the shipment time was only 7 days. Imagine the shipper has got only 7 days in that he has paper document. Of course, if you have electronic, makes the job easier. You could transfer it to the other party. And if the settlement can be done instantly, say atomic settlement, that would be amazing, right? So
That's your time up. Thanks very much, Sunil. Sorry to stop you mid-flight, but I'm very interested. No, I've got a question for you. So you say 100% liquidity can be obtained. Have you actually got banks that are supporting this and injecting that liquidity?
Awesome question. Though we don't have any onboarded bank yet, but there are two mid-sized banks already in queue for doing the KYC with us. One point which I wanted to mention also, that when we onboard borrowers and lenders, all KYC is done through a digital custodian. What we have as liquidity provider today are large institutional investors, those who are keen to look at trade finance as a new instrument, and they're keen to finance these transactions.
That sounds like a very good idea. Anybody got some questions for Sunil?
Yeah, please.
Hello, thank you very much for your presentation. You've mentioned that you are a layer one like blockchain protocol on your own. How does it work with other providers which are partners with you? So you mentioned like documentation providers, etc. Do they have to be built on your blockchain protocol, or it's integrated and it's let's say chain agnostic?
All right, so we got a very good technical guy here asking technical questions. Okay, so we are built on XDC network, which is a public blockchain, layer one, the language you understand. Now, XDC Trade Network is an application built on a network. We are EVM compatible, which means Ethereum, if there are other public blockchain out there, we easily work with them. So that's a technical capability and compatibility. But what is very key here is all the documents gets created here are not something which has to go inside our application only. It can be an email which you can send to your other trade participant. So that's how you can move your document from one party. So we are trying to be interoperable at a technology layer and also at an application layer so that we can have more ease of moving documents from one solution provider to other solution provider.
Great stuff. That's your time up. Thank you very much, Sunil. That's very good. Give a hand round of applause. Tim.
Right, I've got to get on with it. You can see, and I'm actually going to play you a 1-minute video just to kick off. So thank you, ICC and Nick, for the opportunity to do this. So here it is.
We digitize trade and enable you to save 1% or more on your spend, and we significantly boost your working capital. See your enterprise supply chain at transaction level, regardless of geography, forwarder, and accounting system. And we can deliver these results without an initial IT project. So how do we do that? Each time goods or services are provided, your supplier uses our secure portal to self-digitize their paperwork. We use this data to deliver amazing dashboards, immediate invoice approval, and instant payments to your suppliers. Add supply chain finance and keep accounting and cash flow the same. And book savings from early payment discounts, centrally generating excellent returns from day one. Try it out with a few suppliers. There's no IT project or material cost. We digitize trade and enable you to save 1% or more on your spend, and we significantly boost your working capital. Primatrade, see your supply chain.
Right, so that sounds pretty cool. Save 1% on everything that you spend in your supply chain and get additional working capital effectively for free and go live without an IT project. Sounds like a miracle. So this is how we do it. So digitization does not have to be complicated. Our platform works shipment by shipment. So if we follow the numbers on the slide, Each time a supplier ships, number one, they log on to our platform. And number two, they upload and self-digitize, that means they do it, all their paperwork. They take all the paper documents as scans, and we pull all the data off. That's transport documents, packing lists, invoices, inspection reports, whatever it is. Three, we use that data on our platform to cross-check those documents, just like you would find in a bank documentary credit back office. So we check the number of cartons on the transport document to the number of cartons on the packing list, the number of pieces on the packing list, the number of pieces on the invoice, and so on. That enables us automatically to approve an invoice for payment, which enables us then to get the buyer to say they'll pay the invoice. And if the buyer is ready to pay the invoice, we've got a commitment we can discount for cash, which allows a financier to advance cash to the supplier up front, and which the financier gets paid later on by the buyer on the invoice maturity date. So this all scales up to an enterprise level. The platform is self-contained, and it's all driven by supplier data, so we don't need to interface to an ERP to make this work. So our platform delivers automation and speed because it digitizes. It's literally ship on Monday, digitize on Tuesday, cash on Wednesday. And there isn't any blockchain. And that's because we work in manufacturing supply chains where everybody is in the room, which means we don't have problems with third-party trust. So buyers make big savings because suppliers agree early payment discounts because they're getting paid so fast. It's also automated, and therefore there are operational savings. You'll have heard our client, Miles Rothbury from Boohoo Group this morning, talking about a 40% reduction in their operational staff in finance as a result of the automation. So my job here is actually to talk about our case study that we presented Boohoo. They're the largest importer of fashion products by number of shipments in the UK. This shows you the story. We started with an initial pilot. We just switched it on. They picked Bangladesh. Miles was talking about that this morning. Once we were all happy, and Boohoo was happy that this worked, we went through a ramp up where we put 400 suppliers onto the platform in 10 weeks, and then we've scaled. So this is not a pilot. This is an operational environment that's delivering additional working capital and savings at scale. And that's across 4 ERPs, multiple geographies, 6 forwarders, air, sea, and road, and 400 suppliers in 22 countries. So here are a few numbers. This is what we did for the Boohoo Group last year in 2023. We didn't run at full speed the whole year because we started in January, so we ramped up. So we digitized 15,800 shipments, about 100,000 documents. And crucially, you can see that we saved them 1% on everything that they spent on their supply chain. So they spent $200 million. You can do the math, so 1% of that. That's a big saving. It moved the needle for the whole group on their P&L. So that's what trade digitization can deliver. That's our case study. We have other clients, as you can imagine. This is really for supply chains in manufactured goods. So it's not really for commodities. In manufactured goods, it's actually 2/3 of global trading goods. Everyone is in the room. We work with mid-market corporates and larger. It's simple to implement and explain. I guess we'd call it IT light because suppliers do the work. IT arrives. It always arrives in every project. But we can actually switch on and demonstrate value before our clients have to commit IT resources to do some integration and get all of the benefits of digitization. We also work with other SCF programs and platforms. So supply chain finance is a thing, and I need to stop.
Good stuff. Thank you, Tim. So, any questions for Tim? There we go.
Do you have milliliter compliance on your roadmap? Given that right now you're on the URDT framework.
Absolutely. So the URDTT is a set of rules created by the ICC to regulate electronic agreements involved in trade. It's a matter of how it gets implemented. So we can implement to that standard if that's what the parties want. It actually is okay not to go that far if you don't want to. Everything will work because everyone's in the room. So if everyone agrees you don't need to do that level, you can. I think it's recommended that you do, though. So yes, Emlita is absolutely there. Very feasible. It's really how the words are organized and how the documents are done. And we create documents and they're signed electronically. We have an integration with DocuSign. So it can all be done.
Great. Time for another one. There's one there.
You mentioned that you cross-check the documents uploaded by the supplier to automatically approve the invoice for payment. So my question is, how is that connected to the ERPs of your clients? And the second question is, do you use any artificial intelligence tools to do the cross-checking of the documents?
So first question, what we're doing is approving an invoice for immediate payment. We don't touch the organization's existing machinery for doing invoice approvals because they will then, eventually the boxes arrive, they open the boxes, there may be debit notes, other things will happen, and then we deal with that after the event. So we don't need to do the interface to the ERP because our platform's self-contained. It's an approval for immediate payment, and then there's a final process that companies do, which we don't touch. That's also a good thing. AI, our experience is that CFOs don't like black boxes. They want a system where if it makes a decision, they understand why. So we deliberately don't use machine learning and artificial intelligence. It's a set of very simple comparisons and rules with tolerances, and it passes or fails. And that means CFOs understand when they say, well, what's happened? Why did this happen? We can say, well, this is what we did. Do you want to change the rules? And in finance, I think that's the way to go, actually.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tim. That brings us up to the 10-minute mark. Brilliant. We're up on time.
Thank you, guys.
Boaz.
Let's see, that works. That's fine. That's right. Hello, everyone. My name is Boaz Lessem, and I'm from WaveBL. Stay a bit far from this microphone. Hope you can hear me. We're an EBL provider. This is where we are. These are carriers, some of the 4 out of the biggest 10 carriers in the world who are working on Wave commercially for over 4 years. We're number 1 in EBL insurances, and we have this dispatchment of freight forwarders which are already connected to our system and receiving EBLs today commercially. These numbers that you see over here are very significant for us. I remember the first time that we had an EBL. I remember the second time that we had 80 EBLs a month, and we reached 30,000 EBLs just last January as a record. And we do that in 136 countries around the world. Most of them, nobody even knows if they're legal or not, but it works, and they accept them, and they're issued, and it serves a lot to these customers, and it expedites their processes. So why, we have some logos here which disappeared, so what is our key principles, and why was Wave selected by these partners? So first of all, we have a private blockchain which we use with an anonymity layer. Whoever has technical questions about blockchain, we found out that this was the best solution that could be adopted by corporates and banks. Nobody wants public blockchains, and nobody wants the information on the blockchain itself. We have, in the end of the day, customers need to use a SaaS platform, which means they need to log into a service. They can't download and install applications, and we combine both of those things. The third thing, which is a very important thing with a bill of lading, is the legal framework. A bill of lading is the contract between at least 3 parties, maybe even more, and the rules for that contract need to be predefined and understood to all the parties, because they're going to accept and to be bound by them through what is very different than any other service you have heard of, a multi-party agreement. All EBL platforms have a multi-party agreement between all the users. Some see it as a bug. We see it as a very good feature, which creates stability and provides certainty to all the parties. How is it going to work, and what jurisdiction is going to govern that document? So we started the first blockchain EBL POC back with Barclays in 2016, And later on, we got approval of the P&I clubs, which is the effective gateway for carriers to issue bills of lading 2019. COVID really pushed carriers to start issuing bills of lading. Their employees were home, documents couldn't be shipped, and that's actually what made them go commercial, even though they were testing the application before. And today, what we're focused on is delivering these bills of lading with other documents to banks in a structured, simple envelope of presentation. So the challenges holding EBL adoption and cross-platform interoperability, because they obviously exist. So just to define what are the roles and why do we need an EBL platform, it's three major things. First of all, we digitally identify companies around the world, and we need that kind of certainty. It doesn't mean that's really the company behind, but it means that you're talking about a specific identity that could be addressed by all the parties, something like an LEI, but in a platform level. Second thing is facilitating the transfer of possession of the bill of lading. It has to be unique. It's a possessory document. Unlike 90% of the documents we discussed today, they could just be signed electronically. This has to be a unique version. Possession has to be held somewhere, and that's what our customers trust us for. The third thing is title management. We talked about that, about the legal framework that leads to automation. When you receive a bill of lading and it's a request for surrender by an endorsee or a title holder, you don't need to question the lawfulness of that signature. It's valid, and you can just accept it. And that's the big dividend of digitization. So what do we need to do today to make this work better? So we need customs to accept electronic bills of lading. Everybody thought customs need to be on platforms. They don't. They just need to receive a PDF that states an electronic bill of lading exists and was surrendered somewhere on a platform. If it's good for MSC and Hapag-Lloyd, there's no reason the customs won't accept it. It's a digital exportable PDF out of the platform. It could be verified online or printed and verified via QR code, and that's needed. It will be needed in court. It will be needed anywhere else where people are not residing on the interface or the platform. And we need to encourage digital transformation of issuers. Carriers took the lead about this. Freight forwarders haven't. There are hardly any house bills of lading issued today in the world, at least not that we heard of, and they're not really encouraged to do so for different reasons. And different solutions like telex release still exist, and people holding paper bills of lading and funding them, knowing someone else holds them, they still exist. We need to encourage issuers to issue more and more electronic bills of lading. And we need to remember that we need flexibility. Nobody's going to have systems which can read these structured formats in the next few years. So we need to have to live in a limbo state of PDF and
Great.
Right. So I would like to talk about interoperability, but I can address it in a question.
You can. So somebody got a question on
Interoperability question, anyway.
Anyone? Go
Please.
on, Sean.
Boaz, great as always. You mentioned the multi-party agreements,
Yes.
which I know is the way all of your competitors do it as well. What do you think about moving to pure digital, tokenized, even maybe standalone, natively digital bills of lading because of the opportunities of the ETDA and Melita?
I'll try. You know my answer. I think I'll try and do it as simple so people can understand. There is a law. It's called the Carriage of Goods Sea Act. There are rules there how a bill of lading should act. There are 12 platforms today. Each platform has its own legal framework, and their own lawyer interpreted that law differently. The platform was designed differently. It means that the bill of lading would act differently. That's why this creates certainty. It's like having a smart contract in the cryptocurrency world, but with an agreement which some people can actually read and go to court with. And the last point about that is that the question of what jurisdiction would the question of the electronic validity of the document will be addressed at. So even if Singapore and the UK have both adopted MLETR laws, they're not exactly the same. And you would appreciate more certainty as a user to know that the electronic validity question will be settled under the UK law or the Singapore law, and the contract of carriage could be settled, by the parties themselves. I don't think it's a big challenge to accept this adoption. You sign when you get DocuSign, and you sign a document. You approve terms and conditions. You've never read them. No, neither did I. And if they included a longer document, nobody really cares about it. But whoever cares can enjoy the benefits of it.
Okay, so what you're saying is these agreements have a lot of other benefits.
They do.
And so you're not going to get rid of them. Okay.
One more question, the lady there.
Please.
What happens if the platform goes down?
What happens if the paper disappears? Now, it's a good question. Platforms are approved by the P&I clubs who cover the insurance of all the carriers around the world. As part of their requirements, you're supposed to hold an insurance policy, which will cover liability. The party who really is worried about that is actually the carrier. And when they decide they want to pick a platform, they evaluate the technology, they evaluate the company and how it works. And today we have a law. There will be, reliable system criteria, and we'll probably all need to live to those criteria. And again, it can always happen. Hopefully it won't, but it could.
Great. On that bombshell. Thank you very much. Good. Let's have a round of applause for our 4 suppliers here.
Good question.